I I had a short video going. I put it on pause and wanted to finish it, but I couldn't. And I don't want to discard it because it's a very good message, even though it's only partial. And I forgot that I did it because I got busy with whatever I had to do with my husband. And as I sat down to try and take a nap, because being 80, you have to take cat naps sometimes, especially if you've been up all night in prayer. Anyway, the what God brought to my mind and my remembrance was this: to enlighten you on how to protect yourself. There's ways to protect yourself from things happening. Bad things happen to good people. You walk into a room and you get attacked without cause or reason, and you have no idea why. Well, I learned a long time ago, when you live with a dad that goes into rages, you have to be a little bit more careful. Some people, they have to walk on eggshells around certain people. But some of these things I learned, and God brought them to my remembrance today so that I could share them. If you walk into a room and a person is just hanging up the phone, and without cause or reason, they attack you, they say something mean to you or cool to you, and you don't even know what hit you. You're shocked. You're knocked off guard because you don't understand. And you don't know what to do. More than likely, you'll run into your prayer room and you'll cry from being hurt because it was unrighteous, unreasonable, and none of it was true. Well, that's not the thing to do. Because you see, the other part of you feels that. They feel, number one, most men that have even a little bit of something inside of them know when they're wrong. And when they jump on you like that, if you've got God, they're automatically convicted. You don't have to do a thing. It'll trouble them. They won't be able to rest without trying to make it right if they have anything inside of them at all. So when you go into your prayer room and you treat them as though they're going to pay, God's going to come and comfort you. God's going to help you because your feelings are just so hurt on what you don't understand. Well, what you don't understand is what's hurting you. It's not what they said nor what they did. If you use wisdom and you see them just hanging up on the phone, and especially if you know who they were talking to, because you'll know that they do a lot of talking either about you or about things that are of no importance, but it stirs them up. So if you know they're in that condition and they jump on you for nothing, you don't go run and hide. You don't go run and cry. You don't even go run and pray. Because actually, your only prayer would be, Father, forgive them. You be, while you are in that room, as kind and as gracious as you can be with that individual. But you walk out of that room quickly without even being noticed. And you go about your business with your father, go about your business with your brother, and you take your mind completely off of what happened. And you don't go back into that room until God gives you peace that He's taken care of everything. Or you can just walk right into it, get slammed real hard, go out and cry, and wait for God to deal with that person because you've been offended. And I've said it many times, God is not on the side of your offenses. He doesn't side with people. He really doesn't. There are people on this earth who cry and cry and cry, and they're always offended. They're always hurting. And in their memory, they're always remembering what happened to this one and what happened to the ancestors, what happened to everything. And that fills their mind with all of this pain. And then they look over here and they blame it on this one who had nothing to do with it. They don't know and understand that it's there. Crying does not draw God's attention. Offense does not draw his attention, because your offenses come from your feelings, your memories, your everything. They don't come from what really happened or what really happened in the now. They come from your memories of what you think went on, what you think you understood, what you think and what you believe. And as a man thinketh, so is he. So what you do with it is you feed off of it and you build up off of it as though the person that you think offended you. Now, understand me, because I'm going to tell you a truth. No one can offend you. No one. No one can make you feel pain. No one can make you feel bad. No one can make you feel anything. You choose it. You let it. When these feelings from Satan come to you to destroy you, because that's all they're for, they're not to destroy that other one, because they're safe. They're not, they've said what they've said, they've done what they've done, and it's gone. But for you, you're carrying it, and you carried it into that prayer closet, and you take it before God, and you think that because you're taking it before God and you're complaining, and you're murmuring and you're hurting and you're crying because of what you think that other person intended to do, which takes a judgment. You think that you know what that other person did, which takes another judgment. And you wrap yourself around in sin, taking it before the throne of God. You just literally wrap around it over and over. It goes in your mind over and over, because what happens is here, you remember over here, and then this thing comes and that thing comes, and all in the back of your mind comes bitterness and resentment, revenge, anger. All of that comes there. But you see, outwardly, where you can see, you know that's wrong. So what do you do with it? You take it into your prayer closet. That God has even said that some of the prayer closets of people is like an open sepulcher. It's death. It's not righteous. It's not holy. It's not God. It's not anything. You conjure up what you believe that God is listening to. It's what you believe God is listening to. What you believe God is paying attention to. It's not what he's doing. But because you're crying and you're comforting yourself that this one is going to pay, you got a real problem. Because once you go into that prayer closet in that form, you can no longer tell the difference between right and wrong. So someone comes along, whether they're on television or wherever they are, and they start playing a tune. They strum chords of emotion. And they strum it like this. And wherever the pain was, that chord hits the sound and you hear it. Ooh, God must be talking to me. And they're strumming. Hey, God says they're going to pay. God says that I need to just wait. I need to lie and wait to get them, because God's going to get them. And they're just strumming. Well, it was done to my mother. It was done to my father. It was done to my sister. It was done to my brother. And now it's happening to me. And it keeps strumming. And it keeps hitting those chords. Those chords that hits hatred. Woo, that chord's being hit. Oh, the emotional pain. Oh, I can't hardly bear it. I can hardly endure it. When I look at that person and I see what they're saying and I see what they're doing, they need somebody to teach them a lesson. They need somebody to hate them. They need somebody to rise up and do something evil. Because it's the only way you can overcome them. You can't stop them. You can't stop them. You see, that strumming is telling you all of these things. And the devil's playing the tune just perfectly. And you're listening. And you're growing in evil. You're growing in hatred. You're growing in resentment. You're growing in bitterness. You're growing in every evil thing that you can think of. Why? Because God can't be heard anymore. All you hear is that strumming. Well, it's because I'm this race. It's because I was born here. It's because I'm poor. It's because I don't have nothing. I don't have an education. Look at me. I don't have nothing. I'm never going to be nothing. I can't ever be nothing. And you do this all day long. And you do this all night long. You play this tune. You allow the enemy to play this tune in your mind. He plays this tune in your heart. He plays this tune which goes totally against everything God ever taught. But you go to church and you play that tune. And that pastor looks at you and feels sorry for you because poor you don't have nothing. You'll never get nothing. You'll have nothing. So he's strumming it with you. And he's strumming it to get you to do what he wants. To get you where he wants. Oh, he's a wise man. He's smart. He knows how to strum that chord. And they know how to get together in secret and go against those that have been the ones that hurt them. Because they're a different race. They're a different everything. They're not like us. They'll never be like us. We belong to Jesus. You see them? They don't belong to Jesus. They're not gods. They couldn't do what they're doing. Their ancestors couldn't do what they're doing. And all the time you're listening to this, you don't realize. You don't even remember what that Bible says. Don't do this. Don't let your mind go here. Don't let your heart go there. Don't let your emotions rule you. Don't let your mind tell you and memories tell you what's what. That's the flesh. Die to it. Oh, but you can't go there. You can't go there. Oh, no, you'll never have nothing. Ah, listen to that lie. If you forgive, you'll never have nothing. Your ancestors didn't have nothing. They forgave. And look at you. Now, fear hits. If I don't do something, if I don't hate them and rise up and fight them, the same thing's going to happen to me. That's how they strum the tune. Brainwashing and hatred. And they use the pulpit to do it. And they say, oh, God promises you he's going to intervene because he knows, poor you, you're crying. But you see, you're crying because you choose to. You're not crying because you're in so much pain, although, sure, your ancestors suffered. That's a painful thing. But you're not in that pain. You want to use it and grab it over here and get what you want easily. Easily. You see that one over there that worked real hard and they climbed up out of where they were at? You're angry. They were able to get up. You're angry over here. This one was able to overcome. It must be because they are of a different color. It has to be because because they're no better than you. It can't be because they worked hard. It can't be because they spent all of their time in education and working hard to do what is right. It can't be that. It has to be a personal affront against you. It has to be that you don't get nowhere because you are of a certain color. And understand me, I'm not talking about blacks. I'm talking about any race. Being Hispanic, I was persecuted and hated like you never saw. But then see, my mother was beautiful Snow White, and she was persecuted and hated for being white. I come out of both of those extremes. And where I chose to go was not with either one of them. I became very thankful that I was Hispanic and loved it. I became very thankful that I was Polish and loved it. I became thankful and loved everybody. And when my neighbor had something, I didn't look at them, and as poor as I was, where we never even knew what a candy bar was, we never understood what a treat of any kind was, where the prison that we lived near would give us paint for our walls in the slums. And so everything was prison gray. And I never had any clothes. We had to take pillowcases, and we took them and hand stitched them and embroidered a border here, put elastic through here and through here, and made blouses or dresses. And that was how I went to school. Never had anything to buy food for school, and we wrapped up a tortilla every day for lunch, and people laughed at us. But that was all we had. And all the girls that were beautiful and had beautiful clothing and had everything, and it didn't matter what color they were or what race they were, they had it and I didn't. I would look at them and I would smile and think how wonderful somebody had something, even if I didn't have it. I could find joy and pleasure in watching someone else have it. I didn't know God. I didn't know right, wrong, nothing. All I knew was it just made me feel so good to know somebody had something, even if I didn't. We had a little window, and that was the only way to go outside. That window, you climbed out of it, and you went into a little dirt yard, no grass, with railroad ties on a 6-foot high fence, where the padlock was so high nobody could touch it. And that's the only way outside you got, is you went through that window. And on the days that your daddy went into a rage, you didn't go nowhere. You hid. Sometimes you hid under the table as he beat your mother. But you see, it didn't make me hate. I never hated my dad. Oh, when I was 5 years old and didn't know any better, I used to dream about killing him because he was hurting my mother, because he was beating my mother in my dreams. But you see, something happened to me inside where I didn't hate nobody. The emotional stress and trauma of what I went through, I had no capacity to think ahead. All I faced was here and now in protection. How do I get out of this beating? That's all I knew. So therefore, when I went to school, and I went to high school, and I was very intelligent. In elementary school, I didn't even have to study, and I had straight A's. But when I went to high school, every authority reminded me of the authority that beat me. So therefore, I spent my whole life running away and never went to class. Oh, I went for the semester tests, and I passed them, so I couldn't have been stupid. How do you How do you go into economics class and pass enough to graduate? How do you go into any of the subjects, math, whatever, and pass without ever doing any homework, without ever taking any books home, without ever doing anything? And most of the time, skipping class. So the fear of authority caused me to be robbed of an education. And all I saw was the emotional pain and fear before my eyes till it drove me crazy. And still, it didn't cause me to hate anybody. Oh, sometimes I would get angry, and I'm telling you, I would get angry, and I would rebel against what was happening to me. But I'm telling you, it didn't last long. I still strove to be good and kind to everybody. I still strove to do what I believed was right, and I did not know there was a God. I still loved everybody more than myself, and I did not know there was a God. My mother was like that. Because you see, my mother had to be a Christian, and I got that off of her. Because she could bear anything you did to her until it drove her crazy. But she would never open up this mouth to fight or hate. She would always say, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me about so and so. That's your brother's wife, and I love her. I don't want to hear it. That's your brother. Leave him alone. I love him. Leave him alone. That was my mother. And without knowing it, I became just like her. So she had to have had a knowledge, because I know she read the Bible. So she had to have a knowledge of Jesus Christ. But she wasn't allowed, according to her religion, to read it. And that put a great condemnation on her till it drove her nuts. With the beatings and the witchcraft of my grandmother and all of that, it drove her insane. And until she was under lock and key. Because she had no outlet. She had no one who could come and tell her that Jesus was for real and he would protect her. She had none of that. And I can remember walking into the room, and my dad would be on the phone being fed hatred by somebody. And as soon as I walked in the room, I got it. And what I got wasn't good. Because I got all the tirade of all the emotional and all the stress that he was going through from whatever he went through. So I learned to walk on eggshells, to not let a word come out of your mouth. I learned. I learned. The lessons to all of this goes far deeper and far worse, but I won't tell you about it. But I will tell you, a soft answer turns away wrath. Because there are people who are very much like my father, who know they're wrong, and they go into a rage because they're wrong. They strike out because they're wrong. And they don't know how to handle it. They don't know where to turn. They don't know who to go to. So they strike out at whatever's near them. And 9 times out of 10, some of these men will strike out because they know you'll never get angry with them and hate them. You're the only one that will never do that to them. That doesn't make it right. It's absolutely wrong. But in knowing how to walk on eggshells, how to keep from that confrontation, how not to feed it, how not to walk straight into it and get bashed here and bashed there, how to use wisdom, that when you see that happening, you just avoid it. Like tripping over a stone, you don't walk over it and drag your foot. You walk around it. And you don't come back into the room until you have peace that everything is all right with that, whoever that person is, whether it's your father, whether it's your husband, whether it's your brother, no matter who it is. When you have that peace, it's like God says, okay, it's safe now. When you go back in, you don't go back in fighting. You said this to me, you did that to me, you were this, you that. You don't do none of that. A soft answer turns away wrath. You're kind, you're gentle, you do everything within your power by His grace, no matter what awful thing was said to you, no matter what horrible name you were called. Like I told you before, I was called Puta for years by my grandmother. Never knew what it meant. And never mind, I did not know anybody physically the way she claimed. Her mind must have been awful bad and just down into the dirt for her to do that to a little girl. But she died saved. She died asking God to forgive her. She died in my arms. And I know she went to Jesus. That's the wonderful thing about all the things that you go through. Is there's one path that the devil can't use. He can't stop. He can't destroy. He can't pull you down. He can't do anything. He can't tromp on it. Because as long as the hand of God is like this in love, for love covers a multitude of sin. As long as you keep your heart right with God, filled with the agape love, understanding to look beyond their faults and see their needs, believe you me, you'll have a great deal of peace and a great deal of love. You'll know how to answer every man because you'll be able to see clearly with one mind. For that one mind won't be for how you think and how you feel and what you've gone through and what your ancestors gone through. You won't be coveting what somebody else has and hate them because they have it. Oh, that's an awful place to be. To look at someone and envy them and let that envy turn into hatred and jealousy and not be satisfied even after you pull them down. The hatred is still in you. You still go around saying, we use fear for fun. We deliberately intimidate people, even the elderly, even the babies. We deliberately, because they're not of our race. I'm not talking just about the blacks. I've watched white people be so stupid. I mean, stupid. It's, it's not about color. It's about the issues of life in the heart. It's not about color at all. Racism is not about color. It's about the deception of how Satan strums the heart. He takes the oppressed and he deals with them in such a way that he rises up all of the issues of life that out of your belly comes, where out of your mouth comes hatred, resentment, murders, fornication. That's what God says. It builds up like this inside of you, and you don't have any peace, and you never will. Not without forgiveness. You see, if you could look at life, oh, and so many of you have pastors that baptize you and hold your hands and tell you, well, God's going to transfer everything. He's going to transfer and you're going to have and they're going to be without. And I'm a holy man of God. And God showed me that. You're a liar. You're a dirty, filthy, rotten, stinking liar. because God would never do that. God would have compassion on them, say, come to me. Put his arms around them and say, forgive them. They know not what they do. Keep your heart holy. Keep it in forgiveness. Keep it in kindness so that I can bless you. That is what God would tell you in any race. I don't care what race you are. If you are listening to the strum of saying, well, they've been hurting us and they hate us now. They want to take over. They wanted this. And you listen to that. You're stupid. You're stupid. You got problems inside that are so deep. You're going to have to let God use something to rip it out of you, because you're better off to have it ripped out of you than for you to go into hell with it. Understand, it works any way. It works in any religion. It works in any race. It works all exactly the same way. And it turns one against the other because Satan has a plan. He takes what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears, what you remember in your brain, what imagination of your heart, and he mixes it like this and manipulates it till he's got you filled with hatred, resentment, revenge. Now, it's one thing according to the Bible for you to protect yourself. You have a right by God to protect yourself. That means if somebody comes to invade and trespass upon your property, which is you have a power to say no. You can rebuke it. That's it. What you don't have the power to do and right to do is take a hold of that one and say, show them this, teach them that, prove to them that that's not within your right. Oh, I'm sure there are those that are in authority that have the power to see that principality and rip it down. See that and rip it down. They're called to it. But you're not. You don't want to become one that has a form of godliness and denies the power thereof. You keep your eyes and your focus on what you and who you are. You have like blinders. God says, don't look to the right. Don't look to the left. Watch where your feet go. Don't look and mind this one's business and mind that one's business. He teaches that. How do you think Jesus took all of that persecution? He focused on God. He knew God. And that's what you must do.